The crash that changed NASCAR forever. It looked like just another bump, a routine nudge in the chaos of the final lap. No smoke, no fire, just one car grazing another at 150 miles per hour. And yet, in that moment, everything changed.
Is it worth the risk to keep on going?
Sure, to win. I mean, that's what we've always done. The money's never been a factor. We raced when we didn't have any.
Dale Earnhardt Sr., the man known to millions as the Intimidator, was gone. Just like that. NASCAR's toughest legend, silenced by what seemed like a minor crash. But the truth behind that final lap would unravel a legacy, expose hidden dangers, and force a sport to reinvent itself overnight. Dale Earnhardt wasn't just a racer, he was racing. With 7 championships and 76 career wins, he carved his legacy into the asphalt of American motorsport. He drove like he was born to dominate. And he did it with a swagger that made fans cheer and competitors flinch. His number 3 Chevrolet became a symbol of speed, grit, and Southern pride. But on February 18th, 2001, the roar of the crowd turned into stunned silence. The 2001 Daytona 500 was supposed to be another notch in his belt, or at least a celebration of his team. His son, Dale Jr., and teammate Michael Waltrip led the pack in the final stretch. Dale Sr. wasn't going for the win that day. He was doing something else, something more noble. He was blocking the field, protecting the front runners like a bodyguard in a black Chevy. Every swerve, every block, every drift was deliberate. He was running defense at 180 miles per hour, giving everything to secure a victory for someone else. And then came turn 4. Sterling Marlin crept up behind Earnhardt's left rear quarter panel. A gentle tap, barely noticeable to the untrained eye. But at that speed, even a tap is a loaded gun. Dale's car veered low, then darted high, clipping Ken Schrader's car before slamming head-on into the outside wall. It wasn't a fiery explosion or a pile-up of wreckage. It looked survivable. The kind of crash he'd walked away from 100 times before. But this time was different. Ken Schrader was the first to reach him. He climbed out of his own wrecked vehicle and rushed to Dale's window. What he saw made him freeze. His expression changed. His shoulders dropped. He backed away without saying a word. And later, when asked what he saw, he refused to answer. Not because he didn't care, but because he knew. Dale Earnhardt was already gone. Back in the pits, broadcasters spoke in hushed tones. Crews stood still. Fans waited, holding their breath. But the news was already spreading. At 5:16 p.m., doctors at Halifax Medical Center confirmed what many feared. Dale Earnhardt Sr. had died instantly. The indestructible man, whose very nickname, the Intimidator, suggested invincibility, was gone in a flash. But how? How could such a routine-looking crash slay NASCAR's greatest legend? The answer lay in the autopsy. The report confirmed a basilar skull fracture, a catastrophic injury at the base of the skull, often involving the brainstem. It's the kind of injury no one walks away from. The moment his head snapped forward and then violently whipped back, his life ended. There was no time for pain, no awareness, just stillness. But the skull wasn't the only part of his body that suffered. The autopsy revealed fractured ribs, a crushed sternum, a broken ankle, and seatbelt abrasions. There were whispers that the seatbelt had failed, that it tore on impact or had been improperly modified. Some team members believed it had snapped. Others, like rescue worker Tommy Probst, insisted it was intact. No one could say for sure. But the lack of a head and neck restraint, that was undeniable. At the time, the HANS device was available, but not mandatory. Dale Earnhardt had refused to wear it. He felt it limited his movement and compromised his performance. Many drivers agreed, until that day. After Dale's death, opinions changed fast. NASCAR launched a full internal investigation. Nothing was off limits. Engineers dissected every mechanical component. Crash footage was analyzed frame by frame. Medical data was scrutinized. What they discovered shook the sport's foundation. The cars were too rigid. The tracks were lined with concrete walls that absorbed nothing. The safety equipment was outdated. It wasn't just a freak accident. It was a failure of the system. And NASCAR knew it had to act. The response was swift. The hands device became mandatory. Safer barriers, made of steel and foam to absorb energy, were installed across all major tracks. The car of tomorrow was introduced, featuring improved crash resistance, better driver protection, and enhanced energy distribution. The driver's seat was moved farther from the doors. Roll cages were strengthened. Roof flaps were redesigned. Helmets and restraints were upgraded. Nothing was left untouched. And for Dale Jr., the loss became fuel. He returned to the track not just to race, but to carry the name forward, to make it mean something more than just pain. He became the most popular driver in NASCAR for 15 years straight. He won races, he built his own team, and every time he stepped onto the track, he honored his father's legacy, not just with speed, but with safety. Fans didn't forget either. Turn 4 at Daytona became hallowed ground. They came with flowers, notes, number 3 caps, and tears. That wall, that curve, it became a memorial. But the morning wasn't just emotional. It was transformative. Fans began calling for safety reforms. Forums buzzed with technical debates. Safety petitions circulated. For perhaps the first time, the public became part of the safety conversation. And the ripple effect stretched far beyond NASCAR. Formula One, IndyCar, and endurance racing manufacturers around the world re-evaluated cockpit designs, crash zones, and restraint systems. Biometric sensors were developed. Crash data recorders became standard. Racing had always been dangerous, but now it became accountable. Even pop culture felt the impact. Dale Earnhardt tributes appeared in films, songs, video games, and documentaries. Statues were built. Memorial paint schemes ran in tribute races. Kids who had never seen him race grew up learning about him in driver training. His name was no longer just a badge of honor. It was a case study in why motorsport must evolve. But not everyone embraced the changes quietly. Some longtime fans felt NASCAR had gone soft. There were too many rules and regulations taming the sport. Others accused the organization of exploiting Earnhardt's death to commercialize safety. And then there were the conspiracy theories. Rumors that the autopsy had been altered, that Earnhardt had a pre-existing condition, that something had been covered up. None of it was ever proven, but the emotional weight of losing someone so iconic left scars. People didn't just want facts. They wanted someone to blame. And yet, for all the controversy, one truth remains unshakable. Since Dale Earnhardt's death in 2001, no NASCAR Cup Series driver has died during a race. Not one. Ryan Newman's 2020 crash was as violent as anything ever broadcast. His car flipped, exploded in sparks, slammed into the wall, and he walked away. Bruised, shaken, but alive. Why? Because the walls flexed. The car absorbed the hit. The harness held. The helmet protected. The HANS device did its job. And all of that exists because of one crash, one man. Even now, when racers suit up, when fans watch in awe as cars go 3 wide into a turn at 200 miles per hour, they're safer because of Dale Earnhardt. His autopsy didn't just explain a death. It sparked a movement. His number 3 wasn't just retired for years, it became a sacred symbol. And when it finally returned with Austin Dillon, it came only with Dale Jr.'s blessing. The story doesn't end with safety checklists or technical manuals. It lives in how rookies are trained today, not just how to win, but how to survive. It lives in the way crew chiefs conduct safety drills. It lives in how NASCAR shares crash data with the public. In other racing series worldwide, once rivals, they now collaborate on safety research. Dale Earnhardt's story didn't end in Turn 4. It began there. It began in the silence after impact, in the investigations that followed, in the reforms, the tears, the resistance, the change. His death didn't just mark the end of a legend, it marked the beginning of modern racing. Because the truth is, Dale Earnhardt didn't just race to win, he raced so others could live. If this story moved you, hit like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments. Where were you the day Dale Earnhardt took his final lap? We're sharing more stories that go beyond headlines, stories of legends who left their mark not in how they died, but in how they changed the world around them. Because some crashes don't end careers, they start revolutions.